Hey, is that folk music there you play there? What is that? How do you call that folk music?
I think it was Studs Terkel who asked Big Bill Brunzi, did he consider his blues music to be folk music? And Big Bill says, well, never heard no horse.
Shoo bob shooby doo doo booby doo dow.
And the shot rang out, bang! Hot dog!
Don't hesitate! It could be your ticket to a new tomorrow!
None of it. My name is Ralph Litwin, your host, and I have with me today a couple of guests. The guest for this show is Earl White on the fiddle, and backing him up is going to be Pete Peterson on guitar, and they're going to help me out on a song. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ralph.
I'm looking forward to hearing some more of your fiddle music, and we're going to start out with a tune that was collected by a very obscure folk collector and put on his album. I think the guy's name was Bob Dylan, but it's an old tune called Little Sadie. My rounds, saw little Sadie and I blowed her down. Went back home and I went to bed with a 44 smoke glass under my head. Went up next morning about 9:15. Hacks and buggies standing in line. Mustang gamblers coming around. Take little Sadie to the burying ground. Done. Grabbed my hat and away I run. Run pretty fast, but it was too slow. They caught up to me down Jericho. I stand on the corner reading my bill. Sheriff come up to me from Thomasville. Says there, sir, there's your name Brown. Remember that night you blow little Sadie down. Nor the second degree. Every God in paper don't serve none of me. Well, he tied my hands, dressed me in black, put me on a train and took me back. Had no money for to go my bail. They stuck me down in Thomasville jail. It's a judge and jury taking a stand. Judge got the papers in his right hand. 41 days, 41 nights, 41 years to wear the ball and strike. Little Sadie.
Little Sadie.
Sounded real good. So Earl, wow. How long you been playing this fiddle thing, man?
Actually, it's been a little while. Yeah, a little while. I started back in 1985 and just picked it up and kept
just
at it, and this is where I am at this point, right?
Well, what kind of tune do you have for us to start off with?
I got this tune here. It's called The Old South Stole the Midlands. You might also have heard this tune by the name of Speed Trap as well. But I like Old South Stole the Midlands. And with me here, I'm going to have Pete back me up on this tune.
Okay.
Now, when we talked on the phone, you mentioned that you have been collecting these tunes and traveling around to get them, and tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Okay. Actually, starting at about 1971, actually a little bit before that, between 70 and 71, I kind of happened upon a bunch of people, and we started this dance team, this dance group, and called ourselves the Green Grass Cloggers. And as a result of that, we were more or less hired to go to a lot of festivals, bluegrass, old time, fiddlers conventions, basically. And in doing that, I happened upon a group called the Highwood String Band. This old fiddler from North Carolina, Tommy Jarrell, a group from around the Lexington, Virginia area called the Plank Road String Band. And the result was they became my idols. Well, of course, I picked up the fiddle, and primarily, again, just from listening to those guys and just going around to festivals and listening to tunes, I started playing.
Sawing away.
Sawing away.
So that tune or the next one that you're going to do, is there a particular person that you learned it from? Or?
Actually, the first tune I learned from this incredible fiddler, good friend of mine from out in the St. Louis, Missouri way. His name's Jeff Sykes, and he learned it from some old guy out there and more or less passed it on. I tend to, when I go to festivals, I tape tunes, or I concentrate on getting things that I don't know. So the result has been that I've got a slew of tunes that are pretty much spread out from all over the country, all over the world probably. And so when I play, a lot of times it's hard to get people to play with me.
Because you're playing some
because I'm
oddball.
playing oddball tunes, right. But they're really nice tunes though.
Yeah.
I really like them a lot.
Well, we're lucky to have Pete in the studio here today.
Very
A quick
much so.
study.
Yeah, some of these ones I've never heard before, or at least before the rehearsal, and fortunately they don't have too many chords. And also, fortunately, they're nice, straightforward AABB tunes, 16-measure tunes.
Right, very much so.
Besides, if you don't know them when you start, you'll know them when you're ready to play.
Right, after about the 100th time through, you know?
Yeah.
You get the hang of it.
Right.
Well, before you play the next tune, we should let the viewers know that a little later on in the program, you're going to do some clog dancing for them.
Oh yes, I've got my feet tuned up here and I'm ready for that too.
Okay. So what is the next tune online here?
Actually, this next tune I'm going to do here, it's a tune called the Black Mountain Waltz. I'm going to just slow things down a little bit. Works better when it's in tune. Black Mountain Waltz.
Now we had this funny coincidence that happened. I had never met you before, And Nancy Schill, who is our camera lady, and actually she'll be joining us, I guess, for the jam later on at the end of the set. She's a friend of yours, I guess, from festivals and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
And Nancy actually arranged for Earl to come on the show. And then I was playing at a hospital in, what town was I in?
Patterson.
In Patterson.
Right.
And,
of all places.
And Earl walks up to me. I had no idea who he was. And he says, can I look at that banjo? I said, sure. And then we discovered that he was the very person who was booked to come here on the show. That was
It's certainly an incredible happening. I had no idea.
That was pretty funny.
Right.
So we should let people know how to get in touch with it. Do you give fiddle lessons by any chance?
Actually, I do.
You do
I
give fiddle lessons?
I give clogging lessons. Over the years, from being affiliated with the dance group, the Green Grass Cloggers, I did a lot of branching out on my own, and I've done a lot of clogging workshops. Over the past 5 years or so, my concentration has been more playing for dances, at which point maybe for the first hour or so before the dance starts, I do a clogging workshop. And that seems to have worked out pretty good. Get a pretty good response from people.
That sounds good. So here's the number right up on the screen. I can't read it without my glasses, but maybe you can read it for us, Earl.
That's Earl T. White, or more appropriately, you could call me Fiddling Earl White.
All right.
Right. I picked that up somewhere along the line. But my telephone number is 201-963-1952. And I have voicemail, so you can get me anytime.
Voicemail, yeah.
Voicemail.
If you want to call up Earl for fiddling lessons, for clogging lessons, or to come do a workshop at your event, that's the number to call.
Very much so.
And now I think we're going to introduce a friend of yours. Is now the clogging time?
Now is the clogging time.
Why don't you introduce your friend here?
Okay, I'd like to introduce my friend Michelle Tan, who's going to provide the music for, along with Pete's backup. I'm going to do a little dance here, and with this dance, my goal at this point is to clog out the tune, or clog the tune. And what's the name of this tune again, Michelle?
Midnight Run.
Midnight Run, okay.
Yeah. Take your fiddle for you.
Yes. I bet you thought I was going to clog on my fiddle, didn't you? Okay. Great.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Fiddling Earl White, clogging out that tune.
I say.
Now he's catching his breath.
Right. Well, you might see why my concentration over the past
I'm glad you remembered to pick that up, because I wouldn't have remembered.
you see why my concentration over the past 5 years or so has been playing for dances. All right. great. That's clogging. It's some good stuff. You know, when I said that my goal was to step the tune, that came out of a friend of mine who was a Green Grass Clogger who came up with the idea of, if I had this board, and the board being divided into 4 segments, and each segment having a different depth of hollowness under it, so that when you step on it, you get a different tone. Okay? So the idea of stepping a tune, which the board then became known as the step-a-tune, kind of originated from that idea.
Cool. That sounds great.
Right.
Can you tell us how you first got interested in clogging in the first place?
In clogging?
Yeah.
Yes. I was attending college at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. And I kind of got hooked up with this group of people who were looking to start a crisis intervention center. And I was a psychology major. My goal at that point was to be a psychologist. And so I kind of got hooked up with this group. And one of the people in that group went to a fiddlers convention in Galax, Virginia. And as a result of that experience, he, as he says, chased some old lady around the festival, begging her to teach him how to clog. And the result was he then started clogging, or picked up what he called the basic step, brought it back to Greenville, and for a while it didn't set well with most of us living in the house, but after a while he just kept doing and plugging at it, and it started to look really good, and it started to sound really good as well. The result being practically everybody in the house then started clogging. And
That's what perseverance will do.
Oh, I say. And then as a result of just getting together once a week, it turned out the same people were coming one weekend and week out. And we decided, hey, let's give ourselves a name, call ourselves something, which was kind of good because the result was we were practicing in the Parks and Recreation building one night. And a lady drove by. Her name was Betty Casey. And it turned out her husband was editor for the local newspaper. And she had at one point had a square dance group and had traveled all over the world. And so she walked into the building with this gleam in her eye. It's like she saw us as being the next generation of world-class square dancers. But we had something different in mind. We wanted to clog. But she taught us square dancing, and we became a group of square dancing cloggers. And that's pretty much how I got into it. And from that experience is how I pretty much got into playing the fiddle. I started out playing old-time music on the guitar, and then I started playing the fiddle.
All right. Good start.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we got lined up here?
Actually, I could play another tune now that I've got my breath back here. This next tune is a tune. It's in the key of G as well as in the key of C. Incidentally, a lot of tunes that I play are usually either in the key of G or C, although there are D and A tunes as well. But I tend to play a lot of tunes that are pretty much what we call crooked tunes, and I play a lot of tunes that are in 2 keys, and this happens to be one of them. This tune is called the Lambswool Rag. Rag.
Lambswool Rag. Well, we have just about 5 minutes left to go, and I'd just like to thank the folks out in the viewing audience for tuning in. And if you know anybody who's has an entertaining talent that might want to come on the show, feel free to call me at 201-538-2432. That's my business, and you can reach me there or leave a message on my answering machine, and we'll be glad to hear about any kind of talented person who might want to come be a guest here on Horses Sing None of It. And want to thank you, Earl, for coming on the show. It was a real pleasure to hear your fiddling, see your clogging, fiddling Earl White, and also thank Pete Peterson for backing Earl up on a last-minute
Thank you, Pete.
notice. And,
Hey, this is fun.
And you folks either may have seen or may soon see a show that features Pete himself singing and playing guitar and banjo, and on another full episode of Horses Sing None of It. So we hope you'll tune in and see us again. And we're going to take it out. We're going to ask Nancy Schill, our camera operator, to grab her fiddle, and we're going to ask Michelle to come on back and grab her fiddle, and we're going to have us a jam session here to take it out.
A Fiddler's Jam.
Now, what's the name of this tune we're going to do?
The name of this tune is Elzic's Farewell. I guess fitting that we're
saying goodbye with
saying
it.
goodbye.
Thanks again for tuning in. See you, folks.